Ebru Primetime News on this very chilly Tuesday night, the 21st day of April 2020 begins right now. Good evening and welcome aboard. My name is Kenneth. Kazungu, our sign language interpreter for tonight is Joyce Werimo. The country is facing a new headache tonight posed by the heavy rains, as tonight over 400 families living in the shores of Lake Victoria will spend a cold night under the rain after the ongoing heavy rains rendered them homeless. Families in Migingo Island and beaches of Muhuru Bay, Luanda, Konyago, and Kibro are now forced to relocate to higher and safer grounds to avoid being swept away by the raging waters.
Several families have camped in schools and churches after their property and homes were swept by enraged waters. The affected, mostly fishermen and residents along the shores, said homes, beach management offices, business premises and fish preservation containers have been destroyed by the waters. Caleb Uthiambo, a resident of Luanda, Konyago, said they could not salvage their property as water levels rose so fast whilst they were asleep.
Zamani tulikuwa tukiishi hapa vizuri. Kulikuwa hakuna maji. Kuanzia mwezi wa 4 tukaanza kuona hii maji na kutoka ziwa kwenda hivi. Wengine washahama kutoka hapo. Bado sisi ndio tumebakia chupuchupu tu.
Not even business and markets have been spared, with locals now calling on well-wishers and county disaster management teams to come to their rescue. At Kawo, Muhuru, Senye and Luanda beaches, homes have submerged into the lake, resulting in a trail of destruction. Locals say they have never witnessed such a scenario for decades, with some blaming it on flows at Lower Kuja irrigation scheme.
Yanaanguka yote chini. Iko ya mtoto wangu mkubwa, mtoto wangu ya 2, ya 3 na yangu 2 inaanguka chini. Maji iko. Sasa inakaa nje. We have been here for several years, but for now we lack somewhere to go to because of the flooding that occurs during the period of rain. We are now in rental houses where we cannot manage to pay.
Neslin Ogwe, the manager at Lower Kuja irrigation scheme, however, attributed the water levels to precipitation occasioned by climate change.
Inflow from the rivers, all the rivers within the Lake Victoria catchment cannot increase the lake level. The lake level, the major increase in lake level can only be experienced if there is increased precipitation.
At disputed Migingo Island, residents who are fishermen have started migrating after the Lake Victoria water surged up and submerged some of their houses. They said that even the main latrine at the island has caved in due to the ongoing rainfall, posing a serious health risk to the remaining residents.
And as if that is not enough, a number of families have been displaced and their property worth billions of shillings destroyed in Naivasha after River Kebati burst its banks this morning. The river flooded at the popular Delamere shopping center along the Nairobi-Nakuru highway, the nearby Manera village and 10 farms along its route. The river burst its banks following the heavy rains that continue to pound the area in the last 1 week, forcing a Nyondia Dam to overflow and leave a trail of destruction. Following the incident, various roads and estates in Naivasha were flooded for the better part of this morning, adversely affecting the flow of traffic. According to Joseph Maina from Mandera village, houses and latrines have been left flooded, raising fears of a disease outbreak.
Asubuhi nikapata watu wako hapo hivi wanaangalia hali ya hii maji. Nikajaribu kuuliza wenzangu, wakasema hiyo maji iliingia mwendo wa saa 7 usiku. Na hata watu wale wa supermarket walijaribu kuwapigia simu wakuja wajaribu kuokoa vitu zao, lakini hawakuweza. Hapo ndani ya supermarket imeingia kwa store.
Mimi nimekuwa kwa hapa asubuhi, tumeingia hapa, tumerescue hizo fridge zote za huyu mama, tumezikata pale juu. Hii maji imevunja kingo kwa sababu ya hii moto ya karati.
Bank na imeharibu vitu mingi sana kama kwa supermarket, pasta yao vitu ya mamilioni ya pesa mingi. Hapa nyuma yangu kuna hii butchery. Kuna mafridge, kuna vitu mingi sana sasa zimeharibika.
Kuna watu ambao kadhaa wameathirika. Na kuathirika kwao ni hii maji ambayo mto Karate imefurika na imeingia katika kwa manyumba ya watu kadhaa ambao nyumba zao zimeingia maji, zimetapakaa maji. Serikali itengeneze tu, ijenge molding ambayo utakao kuwa ukizuia maji kupanda upande ya juu kuelekea upande wa manyumba za watu.
Now, here is why this new headache is not likely to go away anytime soon. The Kenya Meteorological Department is warning of an increase in the amount of rain in Nairobi and the threat of possible flooding across the country. In a statement, the weatherman explains that starting today until Saturday, there will be intensified rain in Nairobi and its environs, a matter that will be echoed in 45 other counties.
In an advisory, the Met Department states that heavy rainfall of more than 30 millimeters in 24 hours being experienced over several parts of the country is expected to continue. Some of the regions include Western, the Central region including Nairobi area, Northeastern, Northwestern and Coastal region of Kenya. Some of the areas of concern include Kwale, Kilifi, Mombasa, Tana River, Nairobi, Nyeri, Machakos, Kisii, Nyamira, Trans Nzoia, West Pokot, Vihiga, Kakamega, among others. The Kenya Met further informed that the intense rainfall is widely expected to subside come Saturday, April 25th, across the country. Residents of 46 counties in Kenya, save for Mandera County, have been advised to brace themselves for possible flooding and avoid driving through or walking in moving water or open fields, and not to shelter under trees and near grilled windows to minimize exposure to lightning strikes. The weatherman also warned of possible surges in storms along the coast, urging fishermen and people along those regions to remain on high alert. Addressing the media Tuesday, Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i urged those in landslide-prone areas to move to safer grounds.
There is no government anywhere on earth that would like to force people around. You know, it's a very ugly thing to start forcing people into vehicles and driving them and so on. And yet these are our citizens, these are our employers. We would rather everyone listens to the very simple, straightforward, common sense message we are saying. Move to the higher ground, period.
Winnie Lubembe for Ebru TV.
All right, to the aftermath of the effects of this unforgiving wrath of Mother Nature, and authorities say they could have lost up to 24 people in the weekend landslide at the borders between West Pokot and Elgeyo-Marakwet counties. Area Senator Kipchumba Murkomen says that 15 other people cannot be accounted for. Murkomen's pronouncement could see the senator at a collision path with the government, which put the death toll at 12 people after 7 more bodies were pulled out of the mud. Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembea said the government, in collaboration with local residents, are still searching for 22 more people who have been reported as missing.
The landslide also left a trail of deaths, which are over 20 persons, Mr. Speaker. But of these 20 persons, Mr. Speaker, what really saddens me is that most of them are children, Mr. Speaker, of between 8 years and, Mr. Speaker, at 18 years. Some of the children, Mr. Speaker, one family lost twins, Mr. Speaker, who are 8 years old. And you will find, Mr. Speaker, most of the numbers, actually there's a girl of 7 years in a place called Katlit. The twins from Kobil are 2, Mr. Speaker. We have another one of 10, of 8, of 9, of 11. And the oldest, Mr. Speaker, in this group was one person of 82, the other is 46, and the other, Mr. Speaker, is 81. Mr. Speaker, this tragedy, I have never seen something like this. As I said, this is my home area, and this is my ward, where we've lost, to start with, 24 people. And Mr. Speaker, the impact that has occurred, and I've seen in media houses, many of the reports are only focusing on the destruction of the shopping center in CHESOGON and Liter area. But I wanted to, for emphasis sake, to say the real impact where the landslide started on the islands, and where you know it very well because you are an administrator in that area. We have lost 24 people, and the news will be trickling in the fullness of time.
Right to Okay, from the new headache now to one that refuses to go away, and the focus is now shifting to the coastal region where cases of COVID-19 are seemingly growing by the day, with the Health Ministry expressing concern over the disobedience of the anti-COVID spread directives issued by the government. Health CAS Masi Mwangangi also saying the country is facing an acute shortage of testing equipment that has hampered Kenya's testing capacity.
There are some of us who continue to disobey the measures and regulations announced by the government. I would like to remind you that we are in a war situation against an enemy that is not a respecter of age, status, gender, race, and religion.
The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the country has risen to 296, with 15 more people testing positive for COVID-19, with 9 of the 15 people picked up by surveillance teams in different parts of the country. Health CAS Masi Mwangangi says Kenyans are taking lightly the spread of coronavirus, the reason why counties such as Mombasa have experienced an increase in numbers by the day.
Yesterday we recorded 7 cases. Today again we've highlighted a new increase in number of cases, and this is exactly pointing out to the fact that we have established local transmission of this virus, and therefore communities do need to take charge. Some of the measures that we've been putting in place, we've noticed, may not be well adhered to by members of the public.
This comes as Health Ministry Director General Dr. Patrick Amoth, in an interview with a local TV station, said 56% of Kenyans may be asymptomatic to COVID-19, meaning a larger percentage of Kenyans could be having the virus. Meanwhile, the ministry is working with the Interior Ministry to substantiate claims that 50 people who had been taken to mandatory quarantine had later on escaped from the KMTC quarantine center, reasons being that they could not afford the 2,000 shillings per day cost of quarantine.
And we've activated channels through the Ministry of Interior who are following up on this issue, and we'll be able to update you once all the information is collected and the investigations are undertaken.
Mwangangi says the ministry is still experiencing challenges with sampling kits, with a lesser number of samples recorded in the last 24 hours compared to the previous days.
We are facing a challenge with regards to some of the sample kits, the nasopharyngeal swabs and oropharyngeal swabs that are utilized for taking of samples. And therefore, that is why you're seeing our numbers in terms of samples tested reducing. We have, however, engaged our supply chains to be able to avail these samples.
5 patients have been discharged, bringing the total number of recoveries to 74, with another 2,851 contacts being monitored. Dana Rachel Mbogwa, Ebru TV.
To that interview that I promised you as we were starting this bulletin tonight, and the COVID-19 pandemic, which continues to ravage the globe, has not only killed people, spread human suffering, but also rewoven the social fabric in that we can no longer shake hands, and the old idiom, together we stand, no longer stands, as thanks to social distancing, divided we stand. Much as it is a health crisis, this pandemic is slowly but surely turning out to be a human, economic and social crisis. And to discuss it further, I'm joined by Dr. Ademola Olajide, UNFPA representative in Kenya. Thank you very much, Daktari, for your insights tonight. Karibu sana.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we are facing a global health crisis of monumental proportions, Daktari. Over 170,000 people dead and rising by the day. What are your initial thoughts about this whole crisis as the UNFPA?
Well, for us as the UNFPA, it has come at a time when we had just hosted a successful summit here in Nairobi, which reaffirmed the UNFPA mandate towards the 3 zeros. The Nairobi summit was a landmark event where the global community came together to re-emphasize the fact that the 3 zeros, zero met need for family planning, zero gender-based violence and harmful practices, and zero preventable maternal deaths were fundamental to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And so UNFPA was geared with all other partners to hit the ground and to run, particularly in Kenya, to work with the government to achieve these objectives. But now with the onslaught of the pandemic of COVID-19, it has changed the way we work. It has changed our capacity to be on the ground the way we would want to, and it has changed the way we do business. So of course, for us, it's a concern. However, we still have to continue to work with government to achieve those objectives.
All right, Dr. This coronavirus pandemic has torn and seemingly rewoven the social fabric. The idiom that we used to know as we were growing up, that united we stand, doesn't count anymore. Now, thanks to social distancing, it is divided we stand. Now, how as we as a people, as a population as a whole, Dr. supposed to process this new norm, this new way of life?
Well, I totally agree with you that the challenges we face has imposed upon us new norms. I would, however, disagree that we have to be divided. While we may not be physically together, I would actually prefer the norm of physical distancing rather than social distancing. If we put physical distancing between ourselves, but we can leverage technology to keep social contact, we can continue to support ourselves and ensure that together as a people, we imbibe the necessary changes for us to be able to stop this pandemic without totally unraveling the very fabric of our society, which is built on us being together. We can actually be together, but not physically, socially, mentally, and collectively with regards to what vision to defeat the virus.
All right, Dr. These new rules that have come that we're supposed to use to curb the spread of COVID-19 has led to, among other things, lockdowns and stay-home directives. Yesterday, we saw demonstrations in some states in the U.S., New York, for example, Pennsylvania, for example. They're saying they are tired. They want to go back out and do what they used to do normally. And of course, so how are we supposed, Dr., to deal with this pressure that comes with this new norm that we have to be now restricted movement, we have to be contained, we have to stay at home? How are we supposed to deal with that pressure?
What is clear is that what has started as a public health emergency has slowly but surely morphed into a socio-economic emergency and very quickly morphing into a security emergency. What needs to happen really is for us to all work together to ensure that the people themselves, the communities, the societies own the response. They understand very well why they have to have physical distance. They understand the implications of not complying. And we as duty bearers are able to provide the necessary support to cushion the effects of any of the solutions that we have prescribed. Because as they said in my village, we have to be careful that the is not less palatable than the disease. It cannot be harder. So we have to strike a very nuanced balance to ensure that people are supported to be able to take ownership for assuring the response.
All right, Dr. Looking at some of the worst affected countries by meaning death accounts here, countries like the US, over 40,000 people are dead, Italy, over 24,000, and Spain, over 21,000. Now, behind these numbers, Dr., these are real people. These were real people who were part of the population before this coronavirus pandemic. So how is this dent in population likely to affect the socio-economical, even political landscape in these particular countries?
Well, first of all, when you talk about a dent in population, the numbers itself, in terms of percentages, is not huge in denting the population in terms of absolute numbers. But you are right in one thing. UNFPA used to have a mantra that population is not about numbers, it's about people. So each of these numbers you have mentioned are individuals that have families, that have loved ones, that have a whole society, a web, a social fabric around them. This will definitely have psychological impacts, it will have socioeconomic impacts, it will have a broad, far-reaching effect on society the way we know it and the way we have come to be used to it. In terms of absolute numbers within the population, it might not become an initial problem right now, but the socioeconomic consequences of the response we are putting in place and of the impact on the economy is something that will be with us for quite a while. And we have to find a way to deal with and to get used to.
All right, Dr. I know you at the UNFPA are very big on gender-based violence, and we've seen cases coming out of this coronavirus pandemic that deal with gender-based violence. So we'll be coming to that in moments from now. But judging from the difference in demographics and trends, Dr. Would it be fair for us as a country to judge the way that we manage this pandemic vis-a-vis other countries, for example, how the US is managing this crisis, how countries like Ghana, for instance, who just recently lifted restrictions on lockdowns, how countries like Malawi, for instance, which instead of imposing lockdown restrictions, the court went about and overruled that particular directive. Would it be fair, Dr. to judge how we as a country are dealing with the pandemic vis-a-vis other countries?
One thing that is, first of all, that we need to establish is the fact that this was not something anybody prepared for.
All right.
We had our preparedness, we had our plans, we had our business continuity plans, but then this hit so very quickly. Each country has to be nuanced in its response based on the way its society is structured, based on its socioeconomic realities and of its political realities. That's one thing that has to be a guiding force. Now, what is important for every country's response is that you must also learn from the evidence that continues to present itself from other places. For some of those who were responding earlier than us, they didn't have the hindsight that we do have right now. So it's going to be important for us as each nation to look at other nations, look at what they have done, look at what mistakes they have made, and then look at the resources available to us. There's something in public health we talk about, it's called appropriate technology. While you may not have what seems to be the very top of the range in terms of technology, you must be able to use what you have to deliver the results you need. And it therefore must mean that your response must be adapted to your circumstances to get the same results. So it will not be entirely right for us to compare across board, because we also see global leaders scrambling and trying to move their chess pawns around to try to get an optimal balance for each country.
Okay, Dr. You and I are in agreement that this coronavirus pandemic has changed the way we live, has changed the way we interact, has brought world economies to their knees. But what lessons do we need to learn as the world which is now a global village? What collective lesson do we need to learn moving forward post-coronavirus pandemic?
Lesson number one is that we have to continually enhance our preparedness. We should no longer be caught by surprise. These things will continue to happen. It might be 10 years, it might be 20 years, it might be 50, 100 years. We need to constantly re-examine our preparedness plans and be ready. We need to have our systems intertwined. What we're seeing right now is that, yes, the public health may lead a response, but the response is beyond health. There's economy, there's security, there's a whole range of systems that have to continue to work together. So as governments, we need to strengthen our coordination, our integration. And then one thing that we have learned without doubt, that the world is integrated. So no part of the world is immune totally from challenges that other parts of the world face. And so collectively, we have to evolve a system that works and responds to the needs of human beings as one global community, and continue to interrogate the evidence, learn from it, and be guided by that evidence. That's one thing we absolutely have to do. Rhetoric aside, politics aside, the evidence must drive our response.
All right, Dr. Finally, as I promised to ask you this question earlier, UNFPA are very big on gender-based violence, and we've seen cases of that particular vice coming out of this coronavirus pandemic. How bad is the situation, and what are you doing as the UNFPA, and lessons going forward very quickly?
I would say straight away that it is bad enough. If there's one person in some remote part of the country who is being subjected to that kind of violence, it is bad enough. And as we know from the anecdotal information we're getting from the helplines that the State Department of Gender is running, for which we provide support, we are seeing that there are increased calls. So indeed, it is bad. What we're trying to do right now is to ensure that the national response at the national level, at the county level, has a gender lens. in its administration, in its implementation, so that at ab initio, as we're beginning to respond, we're taking into consideration the gender dimensions of our responses with the aim of preventing gender-based violence. Of course, supporting the State Department of Gender through the helpline that it has and the various other actors with law enforcement to be able to respond to gender-based violence as well as the health system. So it's a comprehensive response. And we're trying to see how we can leverage technology to get more information from the field, as well as provide technical support to civil society organizations who are working in these communities. We're still at our desk, and we're doing the best we can in support and on the leadership of the government of Kenya.
All right, Dr. Ademola Olajide, thank you very much for your time and for your insights tonight. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. That is where we take a very quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more stories on the coronavirus pandemic in Kenya. You want to stick around for that. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. A section of leaders have raised queries over the huge donations meant to combat COVID-19 and are now calling for audit of the donations, which are now in their millions. The leaders are also faulting the government on the face mask directive, which they say is ill-timed.
After the coronavirus pandemic knocked on the doors of Kenya, the government was quick to lay out the measures meant to combat the virus, which has so far killed thousands of people globally. Part of these measures was resource mobilization, an initiative carried out by President Uhuru Kenyatta, slashing off his pay cuts, and that of the Deputy President William Ruto by 80%. The other arms of government followed suit, with the head of state forming an emergency fund. With all these efforts, a section of the leaders have raised questions over the expenditure of the money, with Gilgil Member of Parliament Martha Wangari now calling for probe at the end of the pandemic.
Sikujua wako na hadi budget, ofisi ya DPP wana contribute millions of money. Hiyo pesa yote ndio iende kwa kutumika kwa kupea watu chakula, kupea watu masks. Sababu mambo ya kushikwa na polisi juu hauna mask, unafaa kupewa mask. Sababu hii kitu kupata is minimum of 50 shillings. Watu wangapi wanapata hata 50 shillings? Mtu wa bodaboda anakaa hapa atapata hiyo 100 ya kulisha watoto ama kununua mask.
Since the rollout of the emergency fund, Kenyans have decried over lack of sanitizers, water, face masks, and the other essentials needed to combat the virus, even as the government tightens the noose on those who violate the law. Until now, the persons in quarantine centers are forced to incur their costs, some paying 2,000 Kenyan shillings per day. According to Martha Wangari, Parliament will play its oversight role in making sure that the funds were well utilized and the intended parties had benefited.
Na niwahakikishie kwamba pia sisi kama bunge tutakuwa kwa oversight yetu, ile response tutakuwa tukiangalia ile regulations tumepitisha. Kazi yetu ni ku-oversight vile zitatumika, na tutakuwa macho tujue ni pesa ngapi zimewekwa hapo. Nimeona mpaka IBC siku hizi wana contribute.
The remarks by Martha Wangari comes at a time when the country is caught between a rock and hard place in the fight against corruption. The director of the public prosecution, DPP Nudin Haji, has now set eyes on the public servants swindling public money, particularly COVID-19. By now, the country has raised about 1.2 billion Kenyan shillings through mobilization of the resources for response towards containing the spread, effects, and the impact of the coronavirus. Emergency Fund Board Chairperson Jenny Karuku, in a media statement, says corporates, foundations, religious institutions, and the individuals have united during the pandemic by pulling the resources together. Governors across the 47 counties have also put aside a fund for the COVID-19. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Jeff Haimba.
Now, sticking to that statement by the Emergency Response Chairperson, Jane Karuku, the Media Owners Association has contributed over 150 million shillings to the COVID-19 emergency response team. In a statement, the Emergency Response Chairperson, Jane Karuku, Media Owners Association Chairman Wachira Waruru say the contribution is in terms of advertising space in newspapers, radio and television airtime. Waruru said the media houses, among them Ebru TV, will continue driving public awareness and campaigns aimed at curbing the pandemic. Your favorite station, Ebru Television, has committed 10 million shillings towards the fund that has so far collected 1.2 billion Kenya shillings. But to more news now, the Judicial Service Commission has ruled out the possibility of resuming its operations following the increasing numbers of COVID-19 infections in the country. Chief Justice David Maraga has noted that only plea takings and urgent criminal hearings will be effected via email or through the available tools such as Skype in a bid to reduce the backlog of cases.
It's a month now since the courts were temporarily halted from the operations in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. However, there have been suggestions from different stakeholders and Kenyans calling upon the courts to consider its current operations due to the growing number of cases that are piling. However, according to the Chief Justice David Maraga, the start of the nation with COVID-19 pandemic will prove difficult for its operation to resume.
While it is prudent to upscale court activities, it will not be wise to have open court sessions at this time. We must, however, emphasize that this does not mean that the courts have closed down, as some are wanting to claim. Court operations have never and will never be closed.
Addressing the concern after a crucial meeting with the NCAJ, Chief Justice David Maraga instead insisted on delivering judgments through the available online technology in place, such as the use of ICT tools that comprise of video conferencing and e-filing.
To determine which matters can be heard and determined remotely. In that regard, they shall also review their cases with a view to developing and issuing course lists for remote hearing to begin from next week. All other matters, including delivery of judgments, shall be handled through video conferencing or via email.
Maraga further noted that to ensure that there are no backlog of cases, judges will continue to attend to serious criminal cases as well as plea-taking sessions.
During this 1 month, we have put off literally all the cases requiring court appearance. And we know that's building the backlog, but there's really nothing we can do in the circumstances. What we are doing is we are concentrating on those cases which do not require court attendance of witnesses, such as applications and appeals, so that we get them out of the way.
For exceptional circumstances, all pleadings will be served electronically. The Judicial Service Commission has no plans of resuming its operation anytime from now. It has, however, insisted on delivering judgment through technology. Further to that, those in remote areas have been promised to be provided with respective resources. Milia Kisenya for Ebru TV.
Milia Kisenya, thank you for that. But to other matters now, and 5 more people have been placed into forceful quarantine in Nakuru County after they defied government directive by carrying out burial of their loved one without following COVID-19 guidelines. Nakuru County Commissioner Erastus Mbui says affected persons will be quarantined at their own cost. Here now is Jeff Haimba with more details on that story.
The Kenyans, as the government tightens the nose on those violating the COVID-19 measures. In Nakuru County, 5 people will join their colleagues at the quarantine centers for 14 days at the Kenya Industrial Training Institute after they were found flouting the guidelines.
Actually, not for 5 people who attended a burial and went to an extent of dressing the dead, and yet the dead was a victim of COVID-19. The 5 of them are at KENEI as we speak, in a mandatory quarantine.
The 5 now brings the total number to 11 in the county after 6 were nabbed in about 2 days ago. County Commissioner Erastus Mbui says the culprits will be quarantined at their own cost.
Some 6 were found locked in a bar and enjoying their drink. And of course, there are those who are serving them. We have also taken those to a mandatory quarantine at KENEI. We will not relent and we will continue quarantining them at their own cost. After completion of the quarantine period,
whether they are positive or not positive, because they will have to be subjected to test, they will also face a legal action.
The area Governor Lee Kinyanjui revealed that about 191 persons are being held in various isolation centers within the county.
We are also planning to undertake mass testing for frontline healthcare workers who are exposed to the virus. We acknowledge their sacrifices and will ensure that regular testing is conducted as a prevention strategy. A special treatment center has been dedicated at our PGH annex, and it will have 4 ICU beds and a team specifically to deal with our healthcare workers.
Nakuru County is part of the 47 counties that has rolled out the mass testing of the health workers for the virus. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Jeff Haemba.
Right, on the same wavelength, it is reported that police are searching for 50 people who are said to have escaped from the Kenya Medical Training College where they were in mandatory quarantine. It is said that the 50 individuals took advantage of the rains. They were having the evening meal. When it started to rain, they decided to jump over the fence when the police officers who were manning that particular premise took cover. Now, this is very serious because there are fears they could pose a risk to other Kenyans given the fact that they had not completed the 14-day mandatory quarantine. And of course, some of them even had not gotten their COVID-19 test results. So it is very critical. And of course, this afternoon, Health CAS Dr. Mercy Mwangangi said they had received reports of that particular escape and that the Ministry of Health is on top of that situation. But to other matters now, and residents from Kimumu, Munyaka, Silas and Hawaii estates in Eldoret are crying foul over rampant cases of insecurity during curfew times, and of course this causing them sleepless nights. The irate residents say for the last 2 weeks, the estates have reported cases of houses and shops break-ins and looting despite the presence of police officers. CCTV camera footage shows the victims were seen breaking in the shops and residential houses, which has attracted many questions on whether the government is ready to protect its people as they implement the curfew directive.
Siku ya Ijumaa usiku kitu saa 4 wakala walinipata, wakapanda juu ya nyumba ambayo nyumba ni mrefu kabisa, wakapanda, wakaingia kwa mabati, wakakata mabati, wakaingia kwa duka, wakabeba yenye walikuwa wanabeba, wakaenda. Na ilikuwa ni saa 4. Sasa sisi kweli kabisa, na sio mimi peke yangu, watu ni wengi ambao wameibiwa katika hiki kijiji, na ni baada ya kafi kuanza saa 1. Saa hiyo hata watu hako sikuwa nimelala, ambapo walinikuta mpaka kwa nyumba ndani.
Walivunja kwangu jana usiku. Ndio walikuja wakavunja na wakaiba. Hatuna amani kabisa, tumejaribu kulalamika lakini malalamiko yetu haijasikika. Ndio tunaomba OCS wa Kapsoya ajue vile atatusaidia.
Wakora wanakuja kama kwangu walikuja saa 5. Hata sikuwa nimelala, wanigogea dirisha nikiwa tu hapo kwa sitting room. Wananiambia kama sitafungua watanishoot. Tunashindwa hata hizo bunduki wanatoa wapi, hiyo wanatuambia tutashoot. So inabidi mtu hata ati afungulie wao wachukue ile kitu watachukua kuliko wamudhuru mwili.
Hata wakati mtu amepiga duru tunashindwa kutoka nje sababu tunajua askari wako nje. Maana wewe ukitoka nje utabiwa labda wewe ndio mwizi. Kwa hivyo tunaomba askari wetu na OCS wetu wakubali kufanya kazi, ama na watukubalie sisi tunaweza linda mali yetu. Tuwe na vigilante team ambao wanaweza shikana na askari ili tukisikia duru mahali tunaweza saidia mwenye amepatwa na hiyo shida.
Of dire straits now, and Botenga Ward residents in South Mugirango constituency have protested against an impassable key road connecting the area to neighboring counties. But that is not the story. These people, the residents, were demonstrating without observing social distancing and even without wearing face masks. Now, this comes even as the Ministry of Health has been insisting that there are Kenyans who are not taking the COVID-19 pandemic seriously.
This is the pathetic state of a road in Botenga Ward, South Mugirango constituency that has forced residents to take matters into their own hands. One may argue that the residents had a reason to demonstrate, but it seems they had forgotten about the monster known as COVID-19 that has already killed 14 people in the country so far.
Tumekaa kwa hii barabara ina matatizo mengi sana. Tumejaribu kuelezea viongozi wetu, hakuna kitu wanatusaidia. Hata signboard waliweka huko ya kwamba hii barabara itawekwa ram, hatujui kama pesa zilitolewa. Sasa wengi wanajua hii barabara iliwekwa ram, lakini saa hii mnaona ni masimu tu yameendelea huko, hapa magari yanakwama.
According to the residents, their pleas over the deplorable state of the road have fallen on deaf ears, especially by their local leaders.
Tuna manyumba ya kukondishwa hapa. Watoto wa Rongo University wenye wanatusaidia gharama ndogo, ngarao tujisaidie kwa maisha, hawakuji kukaa. Mmeona manyumba yetu yako bure, hayana wateja.
Barabara imeharibika, tumeendea yeye, tuna ripoti na hakuna chochote ambacho anafanya. Tunapiga ripoti, hata onekani risafu hapa. Na tukienda anasema barabara hii atakuja kutengeneza.
The Ministry of Health has raised concerns of a community transmission that has seen cases of COVID-19 in the country on the rise. Further, the ministry has time and time again insisted that there are Kenyans who are not taking the contagion seriously.
What we saw in Baringo must be condemned in the strongest of terms. Fellow Kenyans, remember, under the Public Health Act that has been invoked by the Ministry of Health, all gatherings, whether political or religious, remain banned.
Kisii County has so far recorded 1 case of COVID-19.
Interesting story there about the good cause but a dangerous strategy. But back to the capital now, and business in Eastleigh is now back to normal after 3 days of closure. The business hub complex was shut down for fumigation following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in the area that saw an imam from Eastleigh die due to coronavirus complications.
Eastleigh Business Community Directive has prompted for strict measures to curb the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Shoppers and traders are following strict rules to be allowed to shop and sell within the complex.
Hali zimebadilika. Mwanzo zilikuwa haziko kwenye ndoo. Kwenye ndoo zimewekwa zile za kuosha mkono. Pia na zile za mkono zinaoshwa na zile za kupima vipimo vya kwamba yani mtu kizidi hali yake kwamba itakuwaje.
Hapa Garissa Lodge tunasema tunashukuru serikali kwa kazi ambayo walifanya vizuri. Before the business community hawajafunga hii kazi, watu hawako wakiosha mkono, but now for the last 3 days people are trying their best. Wanajaribu kuosha mkono na pia wanatumia sanitizer vizuri.
The situation is back to normalcy and traders are optimistic of the good days to come.
Leo nimeona hali imeanza kurudi vizuri hapa Eastleigh. Si kama venye tulikuwa nimeona jana, si kwa ubaya, lakini tukiambiwa maduka zifungwe wasione kama ni kitu mbaya.
As I made through the complex, also known as Garissa Lodge, I met Nabil Hood Osman, who is working as a volunteer, spraying the shops and pavements to kill possible traces of coronavirus within Garissa Lodge.
Shughuli nimeianza kutoka saa 2 asubuhi kulingana na haya madhara yaloingia nchini mwetu. Napigia upande wa Eastleigh kwenye mabarabara na kusaidia watu kwenye maduka, na napija nimejitolea, ni kazi yangu binafsi kusaidia watu kulingana na hii magonjwa yaliyotokea sasa hii.
3 days of agony and now the businesses are back at the Eastleigh complex, but the most important thing is the fight against the COVID-19. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Kaindo Stefano.
Kaindo Stefano, thank you so much for that story. But to other news now, and Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula has poked holes into the order restricting movement of persons and related measures. The senator claims that the criteria used to determine location of roadblocks in effecting the order was not well thought out.
Kikuyu, Kiambu, Thika, Machakos, Kitengela up to Kajiado are bedrooms of Nairobi. Many people work in Nairobi and have opted to either acquire property or have cheap rented property in those areas where they reside. Now, the provision to lock off Nairobi, I don't think was well thought out in terms of the inconvenience being caused to Kenyans who live and work in Nairobi from those areas, or live in Nairobi and work in those areas from Nairobi. This needs to be looked at. I want to encourage the committee chaired by my distinguished nephew, Senator for Nairobi, not just to concentrate on the issues that appeared in the preliminary statement, but also look at the broader issues that are affecting Kenyans. For example, Mr. Speaker, I've received a petition from youths in Bungoma town that wherever it gets to 7 o'clock, and I was very happy to see the president go on TV and apologize to Kenyans for the excesses that the police were making on Kenyans. When a Kenyan is found 2-3 minutes past 7 walking home, one would expect that the police will assist them to get home safe, not to be beaten thoroughly.
To a totally different story now, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has summoned 3 police officers attached to the office of the Deputy President William Ruto for interrogation in connection with the murder of Sergeant CHESOGON KENEI. The summoning of the officials follows the analysis of data retrieved by the detectives from KENEI's mobile phone.
It's a murder that not only shocked the nation, but also left Kenyans with more questions than answers over just what happened to the 33-year-old Sergeant CHESOGON KENEI, a man said to be at the heart of a multi-billion shilling dubious arms deal.
And this is the way of shooting himself, and then definitely the entire spatter of either brand and brain, they were expecting to be someone here because that's the direction of trajectory of the ammunition after it has been ejected from the firearm.
After a month and a half, detectives investigating the matter say they are closing in on the suspects who are said to have done everything they could to hide behind the suicide tag, which DCI boss George Kinoti already refuted.
And then we tried to bring all hypotheses, all theory to be fair, absolutely fair. That perhaps if it was suicide, then we rest it and we say, may he rest in peace. It was unfortunate. And then we start only asking for what could have led to himself killing himself, but could not have.
And now 3 of KENEI's colleagues at the office of the Deputy President are set to appear before the DCI Wednesday as the probe gains momentum. The 3 are said to hold key information after the analysis of data retrieved from KENEI's phone. Police reports say the people behind KENEI's murder restored his phone to factory settings, removed the SIM card, and last with an employee of a mobile service provider to delete KENEI's phone records in a bid to cover up the crime. KENEI's Twitter, Facebook, and WhatsApp accounts were also deleted to erase any clues that might help track the culprits. The detectives said they have also summoned a close relative of KENEI to establish the officer's last trip to his village. KENEI, who hoped to have been on duty at the time the arms deal meeting took place at the Deputy President's office, is at the center of the 40 billion shillings arms deal that saw former sports CS Rashid Echesa arrested and charged.
To the world of sports now, and Kenya is staring at a painful expulsion from the 2022 FIFA World Cup qualification race as the landmark decision on the road to Qatar awaits. World Football Governing Body FIFA will on Friday determine the way forward regarding the 110 million Kenya shillings penalty FKF was ordered to pay former Harambee Stars coach Adel Amroshe, which is yet to be honored. FIFA gave FKF an extension of 30 days from March 25th this year to clear the fine. FKF has written again to FIFA requesting for another grace period to pay Ambroshe as they continue to negotiate with the government on the way forward. The Muthaiga Golf Club members have led the way in helping cushion sports people against the effect of the coronavirus by contributing to welfare of the club's caddies. On April 7th, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe ordered the closure of all golf clubs and golf houses in the battle to control the spread of the COVID-19, but requested club members to formulate ways of cushioning the welfare of their caddies. The club's 224 members have already raised over 1.2 million shillings for the 210 caddies. And of course, that is Ebru News Prime Time on this 21st day of April 2020. On behalf of the super amazing team that has helped put this bulletin together, thank you so much, Kenya, for watching. My name is Kenneth Kazungu. Our sign language interpreter for tonight has been Joyce Warimo. Stay safe, see you soon, and God bless.